Hey, welcome to Currents, a Venture Northeast podcast designed to encourage, equip, strengthen pastors, ministry leaders across the Northeast. You know, one of the greatest challenges facing churches today is not hostility from the outside, it's drift from the inside. Most churches, they don't wake up one day and just decide to abandon their mission. Drift happens gradually. It's a new program added here. A tradition becomes untouchable there. Urgent needs begin to crowd out the important priorities. And before long, churches can just find themselves busy doing many good things, but slowly losing sight of the main thing. So the reality is that every church is perfectly designed to produce the results it's currently getting. The question is whether those results align with the mission of Jesus. So today's topic is really important. The title of it is Intercepting Mission Drift, Why Every Church Needs a Vision Audit. It's a very important strategic exercise. And joining us today on our podcast is Stacey from Clarity House. Shane has worked with churches, ministry leaders to help them gain clarity, identify blind spots, make strategic decisions that move the mission forward. So Shane, thanks so much for being with us today on today's podcast.
Doug, it's great to be here, brother. Always good to see you.
It's good to see you. Good to have you here today. So when you hear the word vision audit, the phrase vision audit for a local church, so explain that in kind of simple terms for us.
Yeah, that's good. I would probably define vision audit is in many ways is like a health check. It's a health check around clarity alignment or clarity alignment effectiveness of a church's disciple making or disciple multiplying mission and vision. So simple terms, I would just say it's a simple health checkup. You and I all need to go to the doctors, right? Where are vital signs at? And in many ways, a vision audit is just that. Is there the clear vital signs that we know need to be there?
So why do you think churches struggle in this area with drifting from intentional ministry? They care deeply about reaching people, but somehow the main thing no longer is the main thing, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, there's several reasons, and I think that come up and it could be different. But one, let's just name it's natural. It happens over time. There's a natural tendency for any church to begin to focus inward over time. No church started with a sense of how do we just kind of huddle up. In many ways, every church started with a vision to bring the gospel to a particular community, to a particular people, and over time, right, that there's just a natural turn inward. Doug, I think you've heard us talk about this before, but one of the things that we find we like to even use is kind of a metaphor around this, because I would say I think a lot of times what happens, in a simple way to answer the question, is that the vehicles become the vision over time, meaning our programs over time become the vision.
Right.
And we use sometimes a metaphor of a car. You can picture that for a moment. 4-seater car. Let's say there's a vision's driving, and when any church starts, I'm in a church plant right now that we've just been a part of, and every church planter knows a church starts with a vision and a prayer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And over time, vision that is driving, meaning that God is calling us into the future. Who are the people that we're seeking to bring the gospel to? Why are we in this community? That over time, that vision picks up a passenger, and that passenger ultimately is relational disciple making. We just say it picks up people, and we're finding that in our church plant right now. And as it picks up more people, a third person, in essence, needs to get into the car, and that is programs. And the question is, where does program sit? Yeah. And program sits best in the back seat behind relational disciple making, supporting the relationships, not replacing the relationships. And then a fourth person over time is management, which is just simply the accountable systems and structures that are necessary to help support vision, sitting in the back seat behind vision. But over time, what naturally happens is that vision gets tired. and wants to take a nap or needs to take a nap. We actually think that vision needs to be, recultivated about every 7 to 10 years. And so vision gets in the back seat and takes a nap for a moment. Management moves to the front seat and white knuckles that steering wheel. This is where I've always belonged, right? Yeah. And I think management looks over at relationships and goes, man, probably found what you and I found, Doug. Yep. Relationships are messy. Yeah. Right. So let's, once program, I'd rather have programs up here. And so invites those disciple making relationships to kind of take a back seat as well. And over time you have management driving and you've got programs navigating, and that's just the natural tendency. If we're not recultivating vision about every 5 to 7 to, 10 years, the natural tendency is that over time, I think our vehicles, the programs themselves, become the mission. Yeah. And you and I know this. I don't know a pastor. I don't know a ministry leader I've talked to that ever got into ministry to run programs. They got into ministry because they wanted to make disciples, see change lives. But over time, we often find ourselves running a church. Wow. And so, yeah, that'd be one way to respond to that.
That is so helpful. And I think so many of our churches, you absolutely need to hear that. But every 5 to 7 years. Yeah. I love that, that time frame, what you just said. Let's say if a pastor's listening today and wanted to begin a vision audit for themselves, what do you think is one of the first questions they should ask?
That's great. A couple of things that come to mind, but the first question I would say is, as a pastor, can I clearly answer the question, where is it that God is taking us? Yeah. And it might be helpful, Doug, for us just to pause here for a moment and even just define some terms. Because oftentimes words like mission, vision, they get used interchangeably. And I actually think that's part of the fog that happens over time. Yeah. So I'm going to I'll take a moment to define. I would define mission as what is it we do day in and day out. And the good news is Jesus already gave us a mission, right, to make and multiply disciples. We always say it's the Great Commission restated for our time and place. And vision then really being answering the question, where is it that God is taking us in this next season, and how are we joining him in that? So that's why I would say that first question I'd ask is, as a pastor, as a leader, can I answer the question, where is it that God is taking us in this next season with some clarity? And then the second question around that is, would my leadership team, if I asked them, pop quiz on the leadership team, if I asked them the same question, would they give the same answer? Because most leaders I know, it's not that vision's hard. I actually think it's shared vision that's really hard. And so I have vision, you have vision, the elders have, vision, the deacons have it. But the question is, are we all answering that the same way?
Yeah, that's dangerous, isn't that? Right there. That's the dangerous question to ask, because I have a feeling you're going to get ask a board of elders, 12 elders, that question, you're going to get 12 different answers. Yeah. I'll give you one other one. I think if follow-up to that might be, we mentioned in those time frames a minute ago, when is the last time that vision was recultivated? I was just talking with a pastor actually out in New England area a couple weeks ago. And he had planted, his church is maybe about 10, 15 years old. So it's a young church in New England, right? About 50, somewhere 10, 15 years old. And that idea of recultivating vision every about 5 to 7 to 10 years was a new concept, and I just loved it. His willingness to say, you know what, we casted a vision 15 years ago, I think it was, 15 years ago when we planted this church, and he's like, I've never changed. Like, I never thought, I never even it never entered my mind that the vision may need to shift in essence as we move into next, different seasons of the life of the church. And so mission, right? Make disciples. Again, we could say that in our time and place. That's constant. That's true north. But vision, something being recultivated over time so that we can stay in step with what the Spirit's doing. Yeah, that's so good. Here's just kind of throwing this question at you. Let's say there's a church that's just had a new pastor. I just did an installation for a pastor out in New York. would that be a good time frame to kind of rethink and just,
Yeah.
reset the clock, reset the whole
Yeah.
time frame or vision itself?
Yeah. It's a great time.
Yeah.
I think in a pastor's first, any new pastor, their first 2 years, it's a great opportunity. I mean, they're building trust, all those sort of things. But part of, you're walking the walls, but it's a next chapter of a church's life. And it's a wonderful time to begin recultivating vision for this next season. Around that, I always think of, remember when in Isaiah 6, when it says, in the year that King Uzziah died,
Right.
I saw the Lord.
Lord.
I think that was noted partly because Uzziah had been king for 50 some years. So most people didn't know another leader. It's like a season. It's like Isaiah's just naming a season was closing.
Yeah.
A new generation was forming and a new opportunity. And so how do we stay in step with the Lord? And I think that's true when there's a succession change, a pastor change as well. It's a great time to do a vision audit.
That's great. So how does a church evaluate whether its current programs, ministries, what it's doing actually aligns with its stated mission? You might have feel like you've got a good mission statement. But really, does your actual current ministries and programs align with that or not?
Yeah. Significant. We actually even have churches come to us and it's like, hey, we need some help we think we're stuck in our ministry pathway or, our ministry environments and things as well. And we'll usually pause in that conversation to say, well, can we lift our eyes off the programs, off the ministries themselves, and ask a different question? Because I would say that your ministries or your pathway, you might say, is answering the question, well, how do we accomplish the mission? The bigger question that we need to ask, that I think you're getting at there, is, well, when are we successful on the mission? And if the mission is truly the Great Commission restated for our time and place, so to make and multiply disciples, however you say that, that the success on mission is really around the quality and quantity of disciples that we're making, mobilizing, and multiplying. And so what I find, and Doug, maybe this is different in New England than I'm currently in the upper Midwest. We used to live out in New York and Connecticut area and things, but now we're in the upper Midwest. What I find is that for most churches, that question of clarity around what are the kind of disciples of Jesus that we're seeking to make, mobilize, and multiply, that this specific local community desperately needs more of, is usually pretty fuzzy. Again, similar to vision, it becomes a place of that. It's not that pastors don't care about discipleship, that leaders don't care about discipleship. It's just that over time, discipleship begins to mean everything. And therefore, in the end, begins to mean nothing. So one of the things that I would just say, lean into with that is, are you able to articulate what are the kind of disciples you're trying to raise up? Do we have first, a clear definition, a simple definition that when we say disciple, we all know what we mean. And then secondly, we would even take that just a little further and say, we have a 4-color picture. We sometimes call it your dream disciple. At our church now, today, we call it your everyday disciple.
Clarity House. You guys have some of the best material out there for stuff like that. That's But if you can answer that question, now to look at our ministries, now to look at our programs, you can do some significant assessment, because if we're just assessing attendance, people's participation in the programs, that might mean that we've raised up good churchmen and women. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we've raised up good disciples that can make disciples. So I always wanted, before we get into the pathway or the ministries and evaluation themselves, it's like, well, if we have a picture of what success on mission looks like, the kind of disciples raising up, now we can get down into,
well, then are our ministries helping us raise up those kind of disciples in particular? I can tap a little bit more on even how to approach that, but that would be a first place I'd want to start is, do we know what kind of disciples we're raising up? Now we can look at our ministries and assess, are they really helping us do that?
Yeah. I just took a church in Manhattan through that process, the Clarity, what Clarity House provided. Unfortunately, the process took a little longer because of my health situation, but we got through it. Just this past January, they unveiled it to the congregation. Congregation was on board, and already they're starting to see this turnaround. They're central, right downtown New York City, Manhattan, Central Baptist in Manhattan. So it's kind of fun to see a church that really is starting to see that. But that's what they did. They had to say, what do we want to see in our disciples here?
Why do you? I'm flipping it here. What do you think captured when you said, "Hey, the congregation really bought into it"? What do you think they were captured by? Like, what do you think is different than, "Hey, we're rolling out a new program," or like, what do you think captivated the congregation?
The direction is clear, and it was exciting to them. To see what they were now finally having a target, and understanding this is where we're heading. And I remember the same thing happening here. I've been at this church here in Central Mass for 37 years. But I remember early on doing the same kind of thing, mission, vision, values. And after I got done, there was a pause and there was kind of a hush in the room and suddenly applause. And I will forever in my life, I will forever remember that moment because suddenly this congregation said, yes. That's what we're looking for. I find that the reason I was asking that too is, and again, we could probably go on and on and tell different stories on this. It is fun because I think, especially when you're clarifying in a simple and compelling way, even this is the kind of disciples. Really, what you're saying is to your congregation, this is who we're helping you become. And I think most people have a longing to grow. Like they actually, then I'm going to make a confession. Maybe you've never experienced it. I'm going to make a confession on my own here. And that is, on my bad days, I will look at our congregation and I can just go, man, they're just all consumers. Right. And that's true. We're discipled in a very consumeristic culture. But I have come to understand my own experience on this, and my own confession on this is that I think I sometimes misdiagnosed. I had misdiagnosed what was going on. People needed clarity. If they could get clarity, because do you find this? People, I think mostly they do want to take steps of growth in their relationship with Jesus. I think people do want to leave a spiritual legacy in their family, for the most part. I think people do want to make be an influence in their workplace and neighborhood. They just don't know how. And they don't, when you start giving them a picture of like, hey, you can become this kind of person, this kind of follower of Jesus. It's like people start leaning in. It's true. It's true. Even in the Northeast.
That's right.
So what are a few warning signs then that a church's mission has become unclear or diluted, disconnected from its activity? What would you say are just kind of those, lights going off that tells you things aren't right?
What do we count? What do we celebrate? Doug, I was in a church. This was a church that I served in for a few years, actually out in Jersey. And on this side, what do we celebrate kind of thing? I remember when it was said that hey, someone came to Christ this week, or someone led someone to Christ this week, and there would be some quiet applause. If we said, hey, we took an offering for whatever, last week, and this much money came in, and all of a sudden everyone would clap, really loud. I'm like, okay, we're clapping louder and we're more excited about dollars, which is wonderful. Again, I like, let's give and let's give well and let's be generous people. Than over people coming to Jesus. On that, right? Amen. And it's a slow, subtle, like, I don't think we even recognize it. I just like, it was just sitting in the air. So I do think I think some of it is around, like, you can audit this around, what do we budget for? What's on our calendars? Like, what's on our calendars? Like, where's staff spending time? I mean, if you just did an audit of staff's time, where are you spending your time? And then again, the celebration is just, what are the stories that we share? What are the stories that we celebrate? And I think if you just start peeking in on those things, it oftentimes will give you a picture of, like, what actually is most important to us. Not what do we say is most important, but what is actually most important to us.
I was just, it reminds me what you just said, that I was in a conference here very close down in the Hartford area. Church, it's just doing great things. And they said, if you're a church of 100 to 200, there's 3 things that you need to prioritize. Just 3, only 3. Sunday morning. Small groups. Outreach into your community. And that's what you do. You know? And I appreciated the simplicity of that. And to realize, okay, no, we don't need to be doing men's ministry, women's prayer gathering, bowling ministry, whatever it is. It's like, those are the 3 things. And probably most of our churches are kind of in that range.
Size culture.
Culture. And, I love that. So in your experience, how often, we talked about the 5 to 7 years, but how often do churches prioritize maintaining programs over making disciples? How does an audit kind of expose the problems of that? We kind of talked around that question, but
well, one, that napkin sketch, in a sense of, like, how are we answering these questions? That quickly exposes when the great, I say it this way oftentimes, Doug, when the Great Commission has become the Great Confusion to us. If our leadership, and this is such a thing, if our leadership is on a different page, I don't just mean, are we friends in unity, if we try to answer those questions, what is it we do day in and day out? Why do we do it the way we do it? When are we actually successful on mission? How do we end up and make disciples and make multiply disciples here? Where is it God's taking us? If we don't answer those questions together, like clearly together, immediately, that we are off mission. We've got so that taking that test, in essence, if you will, just that simple little napkin test, goes, where are we aligned? And then it can actually help us just see, again, let's celebrate that. And then, what we have over time, we've gotten fuzzy here. So it can help expose that side of things. I think I was thinking about a church that I was a part of, and I'd been there about a year. I was down here in South Minneapolis, and the church was maybe 35, 40 years old. And my first year there, we were in, some plateau decline side of things, larger church. So that's masked a little bit more. But the reality was we're still in decline. And I remember hearing a staff member say this, what we used to ask around here is, what are we going to do with all these people? Then we built a new sanctuary. And then we started answering, how are we going to keep all these people? And I think sometimes it's those sort of things where, when you start just listening, you go, like, what, actually the question has shifted. Like that in particular gives us a little sense of, all right, what do we need to do next week? Or, we always talk about Sundays coming, side of things. Or what do we need to do for Easter? What do we need to do for Christmas? Which is important. Let's do it well. But so often, like, if that's the primary question, we're probably have moved towards the program centric side of things versus are we asking the questions of what do our people need if we're trying to raise up these kind of disciples? What do they need most next?
Yeah.
What's their next step? And I love to ask it this way, Doug. One of my favorite questions is just, and we're trying to build this in our own church. Is it a who's next versus what's next?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Like when it comes, it's staying people centric.
Yeah.
Versus program centric. On that.
Yeah. And I love just it's celebrating the stories. It's the individuals' lives that are being changed. Yeah. And if church can't find those stories, celebrate those stories, there's a problem there, right?
Yeah.
If you were to talk to a pastor, what are some of the first steps he needs to take with a leadership board to try to get things back on track? The church is on a treadmill, right? They're just going through the motions, on that treadmill of ministry. How does a pastor get his board to see we need to get off the treadmill? We need to do things differently here.
Yeah.
Because it's not working.
Yeah. There's a few, what's the first thing? My mind always goes into like, what context am I in? Where am I at? What's happening? But a couple of things here. Doug, we often say that vision starts in the prayer room before it is clarified in the boardroom.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we'll even do with a team on this is encourage this isn't a pragmatic moment. This is going to I'm going to give this some very practical things, but this is, I think, because it really is we're not just talking about strategic steps, right? We are actually talking, it's a spiritual reality that we're talking about as well. Yeah. And so we'll often engage a team into a 30 to 45 day prayer journey. Yeah. We even have a few, kind of questions that we encourage a church to be praying around, in that. But there is something about vision is not us now pushing ourselves into the future, trying harder. Vision, a God-inspired vision is God pulling us. Yeah. He's inviting us to join him in what he's doing. So one of the first places I would start is a cultivation of prayer. We see this in Jesus's ministry. Every major move in Jesus in his ministry is preceded by some concentrated prayer. Yeah. And would call a team to that. The second thing I would name that just, where to start. I would take those questions. These are I'm going to say them one more time here. I think it's helpful. What do we do? Why do we do it the way we do it? That's really around values. When are we successful? That's really around disciple. What kind of disciples are we raising up? And then how do we do it? Where's God taking us? Yeah. If I was to look at those with a team and just ask the question, where are we clear? Yeah. Where is there fog? If there's been fog for a long time, Doug, I would say a first key step is invite what I would call a strategic outsider to the table. Yeah. And the reason I would say that is, see if this rings true. I got young adult kids. Yeah. Okay. And they're dating now. Yeah. And you experience this with your kids, and they have they're dating, and now they go and meet their significant other's family. And when they meet their significant other's family for the first time, or second time, or third time, they become crystal clear of like, hey, there's some really cool things about your family, and they're like, bro, there are some things that are a little bit weird. Yeah. Right. Yeah. When you're in it. Yeah. You're just part of the family system. You don't see it. You just don't see it anymore, right? Yeah. You just don't see it anymore. And yet an outsider can come in for minutes sometimes, just a little bit of time and quickly sees, not telling you what's wrong, like actually, hey, this is a strength. This is beautiful. Yeah. And also like, hey, this may be a blind spot.
Yeah.
That you just don't see because we're in it. We're just, you and I, we're like, I would say this about Clarity House. We say this about our own church, around that is like sometimes just someone stepping in with the leadership team and being able to ask some of those questions together actually helps surface to the top hey, where do we actually already have clarity that we can step off of?
Yeah.
And where's their fog that we may need to do some real drilling down on?
I think that is so key, so helpful. And I hope that some pastors here, maybe that's maybe a major takeaway for them. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do this alone.
Yeah.
Having someone kind of from the outside, as you said, just helps so much in doing in going through this kind of assessment.
Can I say one thing there, Doug, real quick?
Yeah.
On that?
Yeah.
Just to take the like, I think as leaders, that almost like we hear that and we go, no, I'm supposed to have all the answers.
No.
Like that's my job as the leader.
Yeah.
Actually, what we find is it's really hard to facilitate, especially if we have been in a season that's been a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years of some fog, some mission drift. It's hard to facilitate that with your leadership team.
Yeah.
And also be the voice at the table.
Yeah.
So what part of what the outsider does is a gift to the church, to the leadership team, is not bring the answers like, now I'm coming with the answers. Actually, what they do is their facilitation allows the pastor to have their full voice at the table rather than I'm also trying to facilitate this and, respond to, Elder Joe and, Deacon, Tom, in a way that like, we got to do ministry after this as well. So you're able to really interact and you're able to hear things. So just partly to just name on that too, asking an outsider doesn't mean, man, you're saying my leadership is bad.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And that person kind of helps also helping navigate some of the hard decisions,
right?
And being an additional voice, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because I want to talk about, man, pastors need to have thick skin on this sometimes because as you're doing this vision audit, you're realizing we got to cut some things here. Yeah. And that's not popular.
Leading change is not always fun, huh?
No, it's not. I just remember when we were about 6-7 years into trying to turn the ship around here, and I sat in a deacons meeting, and they passed a paper around the deacons meeting, the top 5 reasons why Doug Geeze should not be the pastor of this church. And my first response was, only 5? I've got a whole lot more, but we were trying to make a difference. And, I don't want to go on with this, but the executive director, the guy who's was in, for New England, Bob Chapman, came in and preached a sermon, and he just totally supported me and what was going on. And here's this guy with gray hair who is able to just help so marvelously, support what the path was. So let's talk about some of the difficult decisions here for a minute. Because,
like leading change isn't always easy, right? It's just not on that. One of the first, I think about a couple of things I would say here, a couple of things about leading change. One, start with thank you versus you should have. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, and this is kind of some of our own, errors in younger years of leadership. I'm sure you never did this, but younger me, and sure was like, hey, we need to be making these changes and things. And what the people hear who've been there faithfully, giving sacrificially, blood, sweat, and tears, maybe for 20, 30 years, what they heard was, you did it wrong and you should have done this. Yeah. But if we start with, thank you for that sacrifice. Thank you for what you've done. In fact, you were doing the right things in that time.
Right.
And we stand on the shoulders of that today. And now today we need to do some of the things you guys did sometimes 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago, is you prayed, you looked around the community around you, you looked at the needs of what were going on, and you made decisions saying, what's the right step for this season? We're so thankful you did. Yeah. We need to do that now. And just this, again, my own confession on that, the posture shift from helping people hear that what you did wasn't wrong, but we need to make change. I think of this when you start leading change, there is that you have to create a little bit of urgency, right? That the status quo is almost scarier, if you will, than this future unknown that we're talking about. And I think about because we know what happens. Like God gave us stories around this, right? We just want to return back to Egypt if we can.
Yep.
And so when you're starting to lead change on that, clear on purpose, little 4 Ps. This is very good. This is good pastor alliteration right here. Purpose, meaning consistently reminding people why the transition is necessary. If we continue in this current state, vision is always a solution to a prior problem. Yeah. If we don't, so sometimes we have to do some more problem casting before we do vision casting, because otherwise the vision's dead on arrival. Like, why go to the promised land if we can just stay in Egypt? Right. So purpose, clear, giving them a picture of what that future could look like. I always say we don't just need a vision statement. People aren't moved by statements; they're moved by story. Right. We have to paint a picture of it is the imagine if that God's calling us into. Keep painting that picture. Here's our first steps. And sometimes, Doug, I'm even at a church right now. Like, I mean, we're starting something new and we're piloting it. Just quietly making a shift. We're not making a big splash around it. We're just piloting it. And so we have a plan. And then I find that if you'll help people, what's the part you need them to play in it? Because when you're a player on the field, there's less complaining, than the people in the stands. And so if we're just sidelining people, that's how people feel. We don't fear change as much as we fear loss. So if we won't just say, hey, we're sidelining this, and then they feel sidelines, but say, here's actually the part I need you to play in this season. If you'll give someone something to participate, like what's a part that they can play, they're less likely, not saying that it's silver bullet, right? But you're less likely to complain because you actually know, oh, this is the part I can play. You're not just putting me on the sidelines. You're not just setting me back. So those 4 things: purpose, picture, plan, what part. I have to keep those in my mind often as we're trying to lead change. That's good.
You have, I believe I saw it on your website. There is a resource, right? For an assessment, to do an assessment.
Yep. There's a little clarity assessment. It's about 10 questions.
That's great.
And I would even say to you can take the assessment. I'll give you a little feedback. My favorite thing to do with it is you can even kind of print off the questions and things too. So take the assessment. But another thing you can do is I love to give it to a team.
I was just going to say,
have them all answer the questions. Because again, I want to go, where do we stack hands? Like you kind of rate different things on a scale 1 to 5 on it. And the conversation most of the time is more important than the right answers. It really is. Are we actually seeing on these kind of 10 areas? How close are we to 4 to 5? And where are we? Like when I hear, hey, I think we're 5 and I think we're a 1. And I hear multiples of that. It's like, that's where I want to lean in. Hey, tell me, there's a little disparity between these two. Like, help me understand more.
Shane, I've just enjoyed this conversation today. And I think it's been helpful, not just for me, but for so many churches listening in. Mission drift, it is. It's just that, right? It happens.
Natural is real.
Right? It happens over time. But the good news is it can be corrected.
Totally.
And that's exciting. And,
Yeah.
and I want to believe with all my heart, Shane, for this, that a new wind is blowing right now in the Northeast. And I'm even starting to see some of our churches in Venture Northeast starting to shift to being healthy.
I love it.
Great Commission churches. It's really exciting to see. So thank you. Thank you for this, brother. Appreciate having you. And thanks for listening to everybody. And until next time, keep leading with courage. Keep your eyes fixed on the mission. And remember, the church is at its strongest when it's remained focused on what matters most, the mission. So again, thanks for listening. God bless everybody.